OG Rose here, and today we're going to be talking about Section 13 of Belonging In with a focus on the work of Hunter. We've talked now about how Jonathan Rauch really argues that conversation, free speech, free exchange is necessary for knowledge accumulation, that a society that doesn't have free speech is a society that doesn't even have knowledge, because free speech is the necessary condition in which new information can be arrived to, because we really don't come to new ideas or new discoveries through just one day waking up and having an epiphany. It's often through trial and error, it's often through mistakes, it's often through exploring ideas that we would not normally explore except if we were pressured by someone who disagrees with us. So free speech is really, really important. Now, Mr. Hunter, Dr. Hunter, in his book Before the Shooting Begins, really wants to stress that one of the things that we end up discussing under pluralism is not simply issues, or you need to use that Aristotelian distinction between accident and essential. We're not simply debating things that are easy to shift. Say, for example, what's the best ice cream, chocolate or vanilla? This really isn't very consequential. And also, both vanilla and chocolate exist equally in multiple people's worlds. It's not really a matter of subjective interpretation. It's a matter of subjectivity of which tastes better, but the existence of vanilla and chocolate is not so much subjective. What Hunter wants us to understand is that we're debating the very first principles and axioms by which people organize their lives, and we often feel like, if democracy is trying to change people out of their first axiom, we have to understand we're not simply trying to change how people see things. We're trying to change we're often in our debates, without realizing it, trying to change the very way that people see things, the very way that they see. And this is much deeper than just one of your ice cream flavors that you want to change. Like the abortion is the issue that he focuses on in the book, and he really wants to point out that abortion is just not something that people can easily shift out of. That it's linked to an entire vision of what is human beings, what constitutes the nature of the world. If you believe that the Bible tells you that abortion is wrong, then becoming pro-choice is a matter of disbelieving in God, which gets to your very fundamental reality. It is not so simple as it is to change just your flavor of ice cream. It's linked up with your entire view of the universe. It's very, very deep. But often when we debate, we don't realize how deep the issues are. We don't think of them as ontological or metaphysical or bound up in ultimate concerns. And that being the case, Hunter wants us to realize that democracy must involve democracy. If the goal of democracy is to make people change their views, it's probably going to fail, because people are very, very reluctant to change their entire ultimate concern, I guess, to use that Paul Tillich term. They're very orientation and reality. So he really wants us to kind of rethink of democracy as substantive democracy, as arguing, really just aware that we are arguing about these very deep ontological issues, these entire universal understandings, and in knowing that, to make our goals much more realistic, to find compromises that we can all live with between those ultimate concerns, those ultimate positions. Because if we're aiming to do more than that, if our goal is to get people to become pro-choice like us, or to become pro-life like us, which would very often require them to absorb our entire metaphysical framework, then it's not going to work. And in our frustration and in our misguided sense of what the goal is, to get people to change their entire metaphysical framework, we're very likely to turn to power and totalitarianism, to force them to change, to make them come around, and while we do it, believe that we are being rational, because from our metaphysical framework of ultimate concerns, we're the rational ones, and they're either dumb, ignorant, or evil, and thus totalitarianism is kind of justified. A harder hand would be justified. There's a lot more to Hunter's argument, but here on Section 13, we really want to understand that in pluralism, we're not simply arguing in our democratic societies between flavors of ice cream, although it can seem that way. That when we're arguing about abortion or gay marriage or a lot of these social issues or even taxation, that it's going to be linked up with people's entire metaphysical framework of reality, their entire system of ultimate concerns. And if we do not realize that, then we're not going to understand how big of a deal it is for people to change their views, and we're probably going to overshoot our goals. And when we do that, we're probably going to become frustrated, and that's when totalitarianism will become appealing. This has been OG Rose. That was section 13. Thank you for listening so far, and for more, please visit ogrose.com, and thank you for your time.